All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Cruise Show on our Vegas vacation, and we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. This week in Underdog, I'm going Juwan Jennings higher than 1.5 receptions. Travis Kelce higher than 0.5 touchdown, rushing or receiving. Patrick Mahomes higher than 25.5 rush yards. Brock Purdy higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. And George Kittle higher than 4 total receptions. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sporting Goods and Collectibles. Check them out in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania, 831-521-5264. And we're also brought to you by ValleyHillRoofing.net, 209-481-6851. All right, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers here. And, it was interesting listening to the Eagles' offensive tackle, Lane Johnson. It's a future Hall of Famer. And he went on with Dan Patrick. Patrick asked him, what happened to you guys late in the year? Things just fell apart. And you know what? He did not dodge the question. He pointed right to the Niner game. And he said, the way they dismantled us kind of derailed what we were doing. And kind of, basically just made teams play us a little differently. And the 49ers claimed, Nick Bosa kind of said after that game, hey, Dallas, you now have the blueprint to beat Philadelphia. And, when you listen to Lane Johnson, he almost makes it sound like that's exactly what happened. Like the Niners presented a game plan on how exactly to go about beating Philadelphia, and everybody else just copied it. So what was that game plan? I think more than anything, the Niners, who had gotten by on doing a lot of stunting, a lot of twisting, turning with their linemen, and really giving teams a lot of movement up front, instead just shrunk the pocket on Jalen Hurts. They didn't have guys looping and stunting and giving him obvious run lanes. They just rushed as one. And if you can imagine, the tackles come together and close the front door, and then Bosa and Young close the side door, and then everything just closes around the quarterback. And that's how you shrink the pocket and get to the quarterback. And that's what the 49ers did. It wasn't, you guys go this way, we go this way, lots of movement. Oh, there's an avenue. Oh, there's an avenue. Oh, there's an avenue up the middle. They did not give Jalen Hurts any obvious rush lanes. And so that's what the Niners did in that matchup. They didn't twist and stunt. They basically just shrunk the pocket down on Jalen Hurts and enabled him to, hemmed him in, didn't give him any ability to get out. And Dallas, I think, copied it the very next week. And I think teams started to copy it, and they started to realize, hey, you know what? If you don't give Jalen an obvious run lane, then, if things break down, he's got nowhere to go with it except for throw it away. So, is he the best pocket passer? No. And if you make him play from the pocket and go through his progressions, odds are he's not going to play as efficiently as he would if you give him a 20-yard, free lane to just gash you in the run and pick up first downs easily on third down. So I think that's really, if you said, what did the Niners do, or what did they put on film that Dallas was able to copy, that some of the teams that played Philly later in the year were able to copy? I think it was just that. It was the way that they rushed Hurts, and they didn't give him run lanes, and they didn't give him, obvious run lanes where he could take off, and they just hemmed him in. Look at some of his rushing totals earlier in the year, and look at how infrequently and for how less dynamic he was as a runner late in the year. I think that was a big part of it. Just keeping Jalen Hurts hemmed in that pocket was a big part of the basically the copycat league. Here's Lane Johnson. I'm gonna let you hear Lane Johnson right here, and then we'll come back and react to it.
Okay, explain to me what happened the last 6-8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as film piles up, and I feel like really after the 49ers game where, it's kind of them dismantling us, I felt like teams kind of piggybacked off that. So I don't know if it was something we were doing with our scheme-wise. Maybe the teams were on to what we were running. But it was a lot more difficult than what it needed to be because you've seen what the offense has been, and then you see that stretch, and it's, what's going on.
There you go. Lane Johnson on Dan Patrick just saying how, man, the Niner game kind of dismantled their season, and it kind of gave people the recipe for how to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And, the Eagles, I think, the Eagles' real issue was not Hurts. And their real issue had nothing to do with Jalen Hurts and how teams played him. Their real issue has to do with the fact that they lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the offseason. They didn't replace him. They didn't have that impact guy in their secondary. Their pass defense was really questionable all season long. I mean, I fully expect the Eagles to go after safeties and corners in this upcoming draft. They've got a deep front line. They can still put heat on you. But man, they really need that second level and third level defenders. More and better linebackers, more and better safeties, more and better corners. I mean, that's what the Eagles need. The Eagles need to improve their back seven. But if you want to say, what did teams do to the Eagles down the stretch that the Niners kind of showed them? I think they showed them, one, that you don't have to, you don't have to do a ton if you don't let Hurts pick up big first downs as a scrambler. That's one. And then I think the other thing that was pretty clear is that the Eagles defensively were pretty vanilla pre-snap. You had a pretty good idea pre-snap what you were getting post-snap. They didn't disguise a lot of coverages. They weren't real nuanced in how they displayed their defense. And I think over the course of the season, that also hurt them. They lacked some element of surprise on defense. They also lacked some talent in their back seven. And I think the combination really burned them coming down the stretch. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Goods and Collectibles, as well as ValleyHillRoofing.net for supporting and sponsoring our trip to Las Vegas. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.